Welcome to 843 TV. I'm your host, Lisa Richardson.
And I'm your host, Annalisa Itkor. And today we are in the council chambers for the town of Hilton Head Island and welcoming three iconic Hilton Head guests, actually. The first up will be Lavon Stevens. He is the chairman of the Gullah Geechee Land and Cultural Preservation Task Force.
Next up, we have Hannah Horne with the Hilton Head Island Bluffton Chamber of Commerce, who is the Vice President of Public Policy and Program.
And lastly, James Wedgeworth. He is a broker sales agent with the Wedgeworth team, Charter One Realty.
So stick around for this episode of 843 TV,
where communities come to speak.
843 TV, where the Low Country comes to speak.
Where Bluffton comes to speak.
Where Hilton Head Island comes to speak.
Where Beaufort comes to speak.
TV,
where communities come to speak.
Welcome to 843 TV. Joining us now, we have Lavon Stevens, and among many things that you do, you are the chairman of the Gullah Geechee Land and Cultural Preservation Task Force.
That's right.
Kind of a mouthful and
Yes.
a very intriguing title. So to start off, tell us a little bit about what that task force is all about.
What we are doing is we're looking at some of the issues that are affecting our native islanders in particular, and the Gullah culture here, which is the Western African culture that is settled in this part of the country, really up and down the southeast coast, but more specifically, the issues that are affecting the culture here on Hilton Head.
Right, okay.
What are some of those issues?
The Gullah culture has been endangered species, so to speak. Before the town of Hilton Head came to be, the native islanders lived here, and since we've had the town incorporated in 1983, there have been a lot of rules that have impacted the land use, and folks have lost a lot of their property. We've probably lost about 66% of the native islander land here on the island through development and, of course, the town.
There's really an amazing history behind all this that we could do a whole show on, honestly.
Absolutely, it's very rich.
Yes, but for this project coming up, the town has hired a consultant. So tell us about what their mission, what their goal is.
The Walker Collaborative is the consulting firm that we've hired, and they have come in and they've taken some input from the community and listened to a lot of the grievances about what's going on with people in their property. Of course, heirs property is a very challenging subject, and we hear that a lot when folks are trying to figure out how to use their land, how to preserve it, how to pass it down to their descendants, and just how they use the land. Of course, since the town has been incorporated, there have been restrictions on how they can use the land or develop it. Most Gullah folks don't really want to do big development, but they just simply want to be able to subdivide the property so they can share it with their family. Family is a big part of the culture.
Sure.
Yes. The word consultant can be a bad word to a lot of folks. The studies get done, they perhaps sit on the shelf, but the consultant that the town has hired to study this particular issue, and the opportunities and challenges, what do you think is going to come out of that at the end?
Well, I'm so glad you said that. That's one of the things we're hoping, that it won't be just another study. And we feel good about these consultants because they've been coming in and listening to the community, and they're going to give us some strategies in the March of next year, how to implement some of these strategies in dealing with the LMO, the land management ordinances, and some of the rules and laws that affect how we use the land and how we preserve the culture.
Right.
I've seen signs around the island that say like a Stony community, and this is new, I haven't seen those before, and I've been here 37 years. Can you kind of tell us what's going on there?
Yeah, that's one of our accomplishments with the task force and with the community, is to identify the historic neighborhoods, to embrace that. And through identifying that, we can also identify some of the residents and just how many people actually still actually a part of the culture. But we're very proud of those signs to have our community recognize those historic neighborhoods.
I think the history, I mean, as you said, I think we could do an entire show just talking about the history of the Gullah Geechee. Kind of a simple question though, which I always think is really interesting. Gullah Geechee, I've heard Geechee Gullah, I've heard Gullah, I've heard Geechee. Is there a difference? What is the significance of those two names?
Well, it just depends on what area that you come from. Of course, the Gullah Geechee areas is recognized from North Carolina all the way down to northern Florida.
Right.
Up and down the Sea Island coast, as we call it. Some areas we were known as Geechee. I'm originally from Savannah. I heard Geechee a lot.
Well, someone once indicated that Savannah and south is
Yeah.
Geechee and
Yeah.
north is Savannah is Gullah. Is
Yes.
that true or sort of true?
Maybe
or-
sort of true because everybody started moving around now.
Well, there
so we
you
got
go.
some Geechee people in Gullah lands. We got some Gullah people in Geechee lands. So
And then when they got married, it was just,
they're all cousins by then. But the real unique thing about the culture is that this is a culture that, again, through the enslaved Africans, when they came here, and of course, more specifically, settling on Hilton Head, that can identify their generations 5 or 6 generations back and really almost trace their roots back to Africa, which is very unique for any culture, but more specifically for African Americans.
Yeah.
And that's why it's such a rich culture, and that's why we also have the focus on places like Mitchellville and the Gullah Museum, who are really can embrace that culture.
Now, has the task force been involved in those projects as well? How long have you all been around, and what are some of the other things that you've done?
We were created through an initiative by the town council. The task force is a subcommittee of the Planning Commission. I serve on the Planning Commission. And in June of 2017, there was a resolution by town council to create this task force to really drill down on a lot of these issues affecting our culture.
All right.
Lavon, can you give us an idea, number-wise? How many residents are in this area with that heritage? Do you have an idea?
What we have, what I recall right now, again, is about 66% of the land has been lost. So we've
Now,
got
when you
about.
say lost, what does that mean?
Some folks have actually sold willingly and done other things with their property.
Okay.
But through development, through the town, who probably has most of the property here on the island. But even years ago, before there was a town of Hilton Head, most of the island was Gullah culture.
Right.
And since the town has come in and now we have gates, we have development, and so a lot of those properties have been lost one way or another.
Okay, that's interesting. So you have this problem that land is getting lost. What are some of the steps that the task force is taking to preserve that? I mean, is it just starting with this evaluation, this consultation?
Yeah, as we've mentioned before, we've had so many reports from consultants, over the years to come in and do some things. We've been able to identify those properties and again establish those historic neighborhoods, and through doing that, be in touch with the community to identify problems with taxes so that we don't lose it through tax sales, to get information out there to our community.
There you go.
Education is so important, and that's some of the things we're doing to help preserve the land and the culture.
Well, we thank you for sharing just this little bit about this very important subject. So you all stay right here. We're going to be talking with Hannah about some exciting events coming up soon when we come back with 843 TV.